We don't want to be seen because it hurts, because it's scary, because it means intimacy and it means connection that is scary. And why is connection scary? Because it hurt us before.
Thank you for waking up with Happy Ass, where we come together to grow in mind, body, and spirit, so we can in turn go out and make the world a brighter and sweeter place to live for ourselves and for others. I'm so glad you're here today, and sitting on in my fancy podcast studio on aka my bed, is my daughter Britt. Yeah, so it's really cool. I knew I wanted her to be on here, and she doesn't know it yet. She's going to be on here more than once, but we'll tell her that later. Okay.
As long as it's not at 7 a.m.
Yeah. Oh, that's not. I used to do it at 7:45. She's not real happy at 7:45, so she didn't like it when I did that. But before we even get started, Brett, I am going to thank Beachy Beach Real Estate, because without them, I could not continue to do this podcast, because they pay for it to be produced and put out there, along with some other amazing people that I'll mention in the middle of the podcast. But so I'm really excited about that. So I love it. Britt said, "What are we going to talk about?" I said, "I don't know. Like your worst childhood memory." No, we're not doing that. But
I would have worn waterproof mascara.
Yeah, but keep in mind that if I ask anything that you don't want to talk about, this is not live.
Okay.
So we're not live. So if I ask you a dreaded question, you can say, "Oop, not talking about that," and we'll scrap the whole thing. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Don't y'all want to know what I may be asking? Okay. So
I want to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know. This just in, I've had no warning, no idea what's going to happen here.
Well, I don't know
this
either.
This could be an intervention about my car. I don't even know.
No. What's going on with your car?
Well, it's always messy.
Oh, your new one's messy now too?
Well,
I haven't looked at it.
It's
messy-ish?
It's ish.
Ish? Yeah. Okay. But you do know that really talented, brilliant people, that's a kind of a trait of y'all.
Yeah, they also swear a lot.
Yeah, they do swear a lot.
Yes,
and they drum in the middle of the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, I like that. I like that bracelet.
Thanks.
Where'd you get that one?
I don't remember.
I didn't buy it.
Evil eye. No, it's.
Oh, I love it.
You did not buy it. You can't have it. Don't take my bracelet.
I do
Don't you have questions for me?
In a minute, I'm going to.
Okay.
I'm just warming you up.
Okay, I'm so warm. The warmest.
Okay. Well, the biggest thing is because our thing that we love together more than anything, well, we have a few things that we really love together. We're very different. We're extremely different on most levels, much like me and my husband were. But we're alike in the most important areas when it comes to compassion and humanity and things like that.
I think we're alike in the areas that matter.
Yeah, and the important, the value stuff, right on. So the one thing that you and I really have in common that we freaking love one thing is, you know what I'm going to say. What do we like to do together? Not together, but
you're either going to say books or art.
We're so crazy about both. How old were you when you discovered that you really loved to read?
Well, I mean, you read to me out loud before I could actually read. Remember, because we didn't know about some of my problems. I had processing issues, and I couldn't hear very well, and I couldn't see very well.
Bless her heart.
Yeah. I don't think I got glasses till I was like 7.
Okay, I don't remember that.
Yeah, because I remember learning to read in first grade in Miss Barbara Clemens' class, who I will forever be grateful for.
Oh, yeah, precious.
But I struggled because I couldn't see. And so once I got glasses, I was a voracious reader, and I was reading all sorts of things. Things that I shouldn't have been reading because your brother Stuart lived with us at the time.
Oh, gosh.
And so he had Stephen King, a lot of things that a second grader probably shouldn't have been reading. I read your old Nancy Drews as well, and Hardy Boys and stuff like that. But basically anything that I get my hands on, I don't know if you remember, Mom, but when I had to do PE, instead of doing PE, I often would go to the library with Miss Gilder.
I did the same thing.
And I would read to kindergartners. Any excuse to read. Or I have vivid memories of, we had these tire pyramids at Beach Elementary. I would go in there and hide from people with my book. I do remember that.
I love that. And I know this is not a real good social trait. But, I take my Kindle with me everywhere I go. You know that about me. I have broken out my Kindle at concerts.
First of all, what makes that not good? You're being efficient with your time.
Well, but I'll sit in concerts and I'll read. I've even gone, if I can hide reading while I'm supposed to be doing something else, I will do it.
Why do you go to the concert then?
Well, because listen, when I want to do something else, I want to read and do the concert. Now, not a crazy concert. Like, it has to be a real mild.
Not going to lie. If I was singing somewhere and I saw you reading your Kindle, I wouldn't be
I wouldn't do it. I usually do it.
Girl.
I usually do it when they're like in between things because I don't want to not do something.
You want to avoid small talk.
True. I was trying.
Well, that's acceptable.
Yeah. I'm not okay.
I'll give you a pass for that.
Okay. And that's okay. We're going to talk about that. So we're going to talk about connection because we're also going to talk about Brené Brown's book. And Brené, you and I both love Brené Brown.
Who discovered Brené Brown first? Was it you or me?
Well, Jody told me about her.
I feel like I got a copy of Daring Greatly because of you and I loving, at the time, her name was Glennon Doyle Moulton.
Oh, yeah. We were just talking about her earlier.
And we were turned on. And then I devoured Daring Greatly. And we give it away to
all the time,
staff
all
members,
the time,
future
all the time.
staff members, all the time.
I'm reading this one again. This is we're going to talk about this one. This is The Gifts of Imperfection.
Yes.
I think it's her first book.
Yeah,
it's my favorite.
I couldn't quite get into that one.
I love it.
I love it. It has some practical things.
Because I can really relate to it on the people-pleasing part and the...
Whatever do you mean?
Lack of connection part. Because even though I love...
Compulsive altruism?
Yeah, exactly. I got that for sure. So, yeah, I know. With that thing where compulsive altruism is where you give too much.
It's when you give to the extent that you're hurting yourself. It's like codependency on steroids.
Raise my hand.
Yeah.
Raise my hand.
Yeah.
Raise my hand.
Or pathological altruism. I don't know. It's in another book.
I love that because I'm recovering from that we're in real time.
Same.
I am so bad about that, Britt. You might already know this about me, but I'm gonna confess something. If I go in if I go in a store, like a boutique, I can't do it right now because I don't have the same kind of money I used to have. But if I went in a boutique, I could not buy something. I felt like that they were open, that I needed to bless their business. I mean, whether I wanted it or not, I would go and I would shop at every boutique and I would get something. You've been with me before.
Oh, I know.
Right? And because I just feel like I'm going to hurt their feelings if I don't buy something from them. That's not good. That's what you call that altruism thing or whatever. But yeah, so I'm in the real time trying to do that. So if thinking about things like that, because I know who you are because you're my daughter and I've seen you do many things. But so thinking about Brené Brown's books and thinking about the things she talks about being vulnerable and being, what's that thing she talks about being vulnerable and, shame, like the difference between shame and guilt and that kind of stuff. What would be the one thing that as an adult because I told you what I'm working on, but I'm working on a bunch of stuff. But what would be something you're working on that you wouldn't mind sharing with people that might help someone who is also working on something that you're trying, self-development that you're doing?
So I'm working on people pleasing, and hopefully, since this is not live, maybe we can look up the book that I think is really powerful right now that I'm listening to on audio. I've shared it with you. I follow her on Instagram. It's amazing. She's the one who talks about the pathological altruism. And just
we'll look that up
but
and
she
put it out
talks
there.
About people pleasing. So I'm definitely working on people pleasing and learning how. But one of the things she talks about in that book is like, stop telling people things like have boundaries when you don't even know who and what you are. Like, you don't even have a concrete understanding of your sense of self because you have been people pleasing so long that you are so out of connection with yourself. Saying something like have boundaries doesn't make any sense because you're walking around like some kind of
where's the boundary
amoeba and you don't know where you end and another begins. So I love how she explains it. So I would definitely say I'm working on people pleasing and reconnecting with myself. I'm just going to be brutally honest. I'm going through a divorce for the third time. So
tough.
Not to, whether I like it or not, I'm the common denominator in all of that. And I am using this as an opportunity to reconnect with myself and, figure out what this means for me and my healing. When you're codependent, and when you've been codependent for a long time, your sickness shows up when you're in relationships.
Oh, good God, yes. Right? I mean, it only shows up. It doesn't really show up in real life.
You don't see it until you have a mirror, right? And so I would say the people pleasing, I would say letting go of perfectionism, which is the enemy of creation.
Oh my gosh.
Which is the enemy of creative expression, which is the harbinger, is that how I pronounce that word?
Yeah, harbinger, you said it right.
Of shame. So my new mantra is good is good enough, which is so difficult, which you know how I am. I'm the child that in school would literally not turn in a paper and take the bad grade because I thought what I had written was crap. And I would rather get a 0 than turn in something I didn't believe in.
It wasn't perfect. Yeah. Either all or nothing. Yeah.
So I think people pleasing and letting go of perfectionism, because perfectionism is just, well, it's all BS anyway.
It is real. BS. It's totally BS.
Yeah.
And the thing you said was so important about codependency. I read also the book by Melody Beatty, Codependent No More. Man, did she smack me in the face so many times. And I read it when one of the many times that Hugh and I broke up. But so I can tell you that because right now, as far as codependency, I don't really experience a lot of that right now because I'm not in a relationship. When I was in you experience with your family, you do, but it's not the extent of a relationship, not even
a romantic relationship.
Not even, a romantic relationship. Because when I dated Hugh for those many years we dated, I was had a hard time with that, and luckily it was easier for me because I was with a man who was into self-development and self-growth, and he loved to talk. I mean, I know he's a weirdo. He loved to talk about it. He loved to talk about feelings. He loved to talk about how something made me feel and what we could do to it was awesome. But when you do not have a partner who has that same level of self-reflection, that is hard. For people like us, it's almost impossible. What do you think?
What do I think about if you don't have a partner
partner that is kind of has that same type of value?
For sure.
Yeah.
If you're not aligned with the person you're doing life with, whether it's romantic, business, friendship, then it's hell.
One of the things that I admitted, I love that it says on her in her book, this one, The Gifts of Imperfection, she says, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. And it says wholehearted living equals courage, compassion, and connection. Well, I think I'm really good at courage, compassion. I'm embarrassed to tell you, and I talked about this on another podcast, that I'm really working on connection, because connection has to go both ways. It's like a surge. You can't let someone tell you all their stuff and you withhold. I'm a withholder.
You think?
A lot, yeah. I'm the leader. I'm the leader, And but in order for there to be connection, the surge has to go both ways. So, do you have any thoughts about that? Like courage, compassion, connection.
Okay. We have been surrounded with addiction, alcoholism, codependency, all the isms, right?
Horrible.
We are hyper independent women, right?
Amen.
Which is a trauma response. I do a lot of the things that you do. I'm fine. It's okay. I've got it together. Because much of your identity is wrapped in being the fixer, is wrapped in I am the one that people call when ish gets real, they can depend on me.
And we're sober.
Right? They can depend on me. So, therefore, I have to be the one that takes care of everything. And they're not going to see me as that competent leader that my identity is wrapped up in if I show too much vulnerability. If I show any kind of really humanity. I mean, like, it's okay to not have it together sometimes, but we operate under this. No, we have to have it all together because we just can't let our guard down because there's stuff to do, there's people to take care of, and they depend on us.
And we're the head of the Titanic.
Right, but that is BS.
It is
because
BS.
People don't trust people that don't allow themselves to be seen. And I see this evidenced as I'm starting to do more creative work. I mean, Mom, let's see. How old was I when I first started singing? What, like 8 or 9?
Oh, you were
10,
you were 8.
Like
you were very young.
Okay, so I'm almost 43 years old, and just now sharing things of my own with the public, like that I've written because I'm so terrified. So unbelievably terrified of being seen. And yet at the same token, like on the same, I'm also craving that, right? As artists and as people
Because that's a
right?
natural human tendency.
We don't want to be seen because it hurts, because it's scary, because it means intimacy and it means connection that is scary. And why is connection scary? Because it hurt us before. Because trauma made us think that intimacy and connection were scary things because that's when we're hurt. But the thing is I don't get to feel the gifts of intimacy and connection unless I take the emotional risk and allow myself to be vulnerable and allow myself to be seen, allow myself to be human. I don't know. Do you trust anybody that has it all together? I don't. I call bullshit. Oh, wait. I call BS.
It's my natural tendency. Just it's easy for me to be kind, and it's easy for me to be loving, and those are easy things for me. They feel natural. Natural, but
what is kind, Mom? What is kind?
Well, we can define that. Kind's probably being honest and true and pure and all those things. But my point is, those are easy things for me. But there's only so much of a person to go around. You know what I'm saying? So I'm learning where to have limits of taking care of me too. And that's something that I think a lot of us do when we get older. And I think women especially. Because we're trained to, take care of everybody. And again, if you're in an alcoholic home, drug addicted home, and you're the one that's not drug addicted or alcoholic, you are the one that takes care of people.
I have that codependent rage. Where like you just keep saying yes to people over and over again, and then finally you're just like, enough! I'm done taking care of people. I'm done taking care of pets. I'm done.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, you got a bunny for Piper, and you're going. You just want to knock yourself in the head, don't you?
I do a little bit.
Yeah,
so
I know.
I want a bunny.
Well,
Piper won't hear this podcast, right?
I really don't.
Can I advertise for the bunny on this? Is that possible?
I don't know.
Okay.
But any people that want a bunny. But I love my animals. Don't get me wrong. I love my animals. But I just am at the point in my life where I just don't want more people to depend on me. I want less people to depend on me, not more people. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I do the same thing. We keep saying like, oh, I don't need one more person to take care of or one more thing. Is it really all the people, or is it us not taking care of ourselves?
I don't know. I've gotten better about that though. I do take
because
care of
the people are always going to be out there.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a boutique to buy from,
Yeah.
an animal to rescue,
a
person that needs our help. I mean, or do we just need to say no?
Yeah, I'm learning that. I'm getting better at that. And the main thing for me is like making sure I do some things to have fun, which I used to not do because I was a workaholic. I'm really good at fun now. I play golf, and that's fun for me. And
are you really? Because sometimes you cuss.
I cuss like a sailor.
Like, sometimes you have she's breaking down.
But
after golf sometimes.
But fun to me is, I know this is weird, but fun to me is achievement and learning and growing, become better at something. And golf is constant. You have to. It is hard. It's the hardest sport you'll ever try. I mean, it's just so hard. So I like achieving. Listen, fun for me is for you too. If you let me loose in a library and tell me I've got to research for 10 hours, I will kiss you on the mouth. I love that. So I'm a weird fun person. That's fun for me. So, you know what I mean?
Mom, I'm your child.
I know, because you like those things too.
I remember. It's fun for me to win. That's what's fun.
And I love, like when I was going to college, and I already had all three of you actually had Sheldon right when I started, and I would get in the library and I would look up, and I would have been there for 6-7 hours, totally had no concept of time, and that's how I know.
That, my friends, is called time blindness. Yes. Something that my mom gets upset at me for having.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm not going to tell you that she's late most places she goes. So bless her little sweetheart.
Time is a construct.
Yeah, I know. Whatever. But so that's super important. And Britt and I are both in a phase of our life when I'm 65. How old are you?
I will be 43 my next
43.
birthday.
I thought you were 42.
I don't know how this happened.
I'm embarrassed. I never know how old my kids are. People ask me.
Do you know, you guys?
I know when your birthday is, but
I
don't know.
Gentle viewers. She once asked me if I wanted to go to a casino. And I wasn't 21. Don't have to be 21 to be a casino.
I don't know.
Yeah, we were in Biloxi and like, hey, you want to go to the casino?
Oh, that's right.
And I was like, Mom, I'm like 19. And she was like, ha, that's right. I could have gotten away with so much stuff, you guys.
Well, I'm age. You know what?
Fine.
Age doesn't matter.
It's a construct.
Age doesn't matter. I don't care about age, so that's probably why. But I never know. People ask me all the time. They go, "How old are your kids?" I go, "I don't know." I said they're between the age of 30 something and 30 something. I don't know.
I still make Sheldon like 25. My youngest brother.
How old is he?
I think he's early 30s, mid 30s.
See, you don't know either.
He's like 6 or 7 years younger than me. So whatever that math is.
But I remember when Sheldon was little, Sherry Danford Jones was spending the night with me. I think it was was I having brain stuff? No, I don't. She was Sheldon was little, and she said, what grade is Sheldon in? I said, I can't remember. And she said, well, what school does he go to? I go, wait a minute, I got that. Let me,
Details.
Yeah, details. I mean, I knew how to get there.
I
just couldn't remember the name.
It's okay. It's fine.
Do you think he's messed up because we'd forget him when we went places?
I mean, I'm sure that's one of the many gifts of dysfunction we brought to the table. But I'm sure we're not screwing our children up any more than the average person.
I know, exactly. Do you when you were in school, you didn't particularly like school because you didn't like the social element of it. You had a lot of trouble and anxiety going to school, and that was not good for you, but you were very, very, very smart. And I'm trying to remember, obviously besides reading, what was your favorite class?
So any kind of social sciences, so that I enjoyed. I got kicked out of art class.
Why'd you get? I can't remember that. Why'd you get kicked out of class?
I honestly can't remember the name of the teacher. She gave me a D and told me that maybe that class wasn't for me.
How do you do that to an artist?
Told me I needed to pick a different elective.
Wow.
Circling back to what you were asking, what I was working on. Every couple of years, I break out The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I'm such a big believer in creative recovery. So when we talk about what I'm working on self-development wise, it's so closely just tied in with creative recovery. I believe that when we pursue artistic expression and when we pursue being in the flow with creation and creating,
being who we're intended to be,
that's when healing happens. But I enjoyed that sort of thing, but unfortunately I didn't quite have encouragement. Choir, music, singing. I had some influential English teachers in my life. Eric Cobb.
Oh gosh.
Was amazing.
Love that man.
Really influential when I was in high school and showed me a lot of kindness. There's a couple of different teachers that had an impact on my life when I was younger. Miss Funkhauser, who later became Miss Rushi, who I'm friends with today. really loved on me and poured on me when I started singing when I was younger, and that was my safe place. The choir room was my safe place when I got made fun of at school by kids making fun of my hand-me-down outfits or how I over-explained and certain things that now I understand as that were neurodivergence, which, I didn't understand until I was an adult. But the choir room was my safe place. So music, art, stuff like that, dance. I really enjoyed my ethics class in school and in college. Anything where I could study and learn about people and their stories and brain science type stuff. Remember, I went through that one period of time where I wanted to be where I was like really obsessed with psychiatry and I wanted to be like a neurologist and psychiatrist.
If I told you the one.
But then I saw how much school was involved and I was like, hell no.
I am obsessed with that. I am obsessed with our brain health right now. I read so much. I love Dr. Amen. Oh my God, love Dr. Amen. But I read Carol Leaf, so many things about brain health, and I just love it. So, but before we talk, because I want to talk a little bit more about that, I want to thank these other precious people that said yes to help me with this podcast. And that sweet Kitty Stewart.
Oh, she's fabulous.
Oh my gosh.
What a good human. Like just a pure, good soul.
That's why she's
like she oozes with goodness.
And I want to tell you that's why she's doing this podcast, because I knew in my heart when I had to start reaching out for people to sponsor, I knew to go to her, because whenever I need a sponsor for something that's helping people, she just loves to say yes and she loves to be involved, and she's just got the kindest, sweetest spirit. So, but besides being kind and sweet, she is a mortgage broker.
She's good.
She's very good.
She's actually taking care of some real estate clients of mine right now.
That's awesome. So the cool thing about that is she's got like 130 plus different mortgages that she can do. So if you're when you go to a bank, now I love my banks, don't get me wrong, love my banks, but a bank has their products, but she has many products. So that's pretty cool.
So she's like a mortgage broker.
Yeah, she's a mortgage broker.
So she has access to all different types of products, different banks, different investors.
Right.
So she would be a good person for people to reach out to if they needed flexibility.
Absolutely.
They weren't quite sure which direction.
They didn't fit in the peg.
And she's really good with people that need like a little bit of hand holding, a little bit of loving. Like you guys both have that like, oh sweetie, come here, I'll take care of you vibe. Like that.
Yeah, so she's good at that. And
that honey energy.
And so she's Kitty Stewart with the Dream Team, powered by Edge. So her information will be in the show notes later. And also, and you don't have to tell anybody how bad I am. So just, you are my daughter. So may have to cut some of this. I'm not real good with money. I'm good with making money. Well, no. Excuse me. I have in the past. Actually, my new affirmation is I'm good with money.
Every time you say you're not good with money,
you're right.
You're the one that taught me that.
I know you're right, but in the past, I have not been good with money.
Don't cut this out.
No, we won't. We will not cut this out. In the past, I have not been good with money, so it's one of the things I'm working on.
I would say that that's directly correlated to codependency.
Absolutely, because I give it all away.
You and I are like, somebody needs something.
Oh, I gave it all away.
Somebody needs something.
So
somebody needs something.
I literally,
and then we hurt ourselves, and then we can't pay our bills because we have made poor financial decisions.
Because I've given it away. Yeah. Absolutely.
There's nothing wrong with giving it away when it's coming from a spirit of abundance and you're taken care of, right? Like your cup is filled. You're okay first, right? The whole like rich dad, poor dad, pay yourself first type stuff.
But so I have not been good at that in the past, but I'm getting better now. So when I was introduced to Brian Yormack with Bay Tax, he helped me with tax strategies.
They are brilliant.
Unbelievably
oh my goodness. You can brilliant. Be in the room with them for a couple minutes and
they're
you're
so
like,
smart.
Take all my money, take control of my taxes.
Oh, so smart.
Do the things because you guys are brilliant.
They're so amazing. Smart. So Brian Yormack with Bay Tax, they do cost segregation. They also did a thing for me with the employees where I was paying all my employees during COVID and they filed something for me for that. So that's going to be a beautiful gift when that happens. But I thankful for people like that. And one thing I am good about is because there's certain areas of my life that I'm not gifted or talented. I have been really blessed to have people in my life who are better in other areas.
And I think you've taught me that skill.
Yeah, I am. I don't. And John Maxwell taught me that. John Maxwell, that's another one of ours.
Yeah, that's one that you turned me on to.
Oh, we've got to go see him, Britt.
Yes.
I mean, he's 80-something years old and still doing his thing. And
failing forward is
Zig
so
Ziglar and John Maxwell. Of course, Zig I saw. Did you get to see Zig when he was alive?
You and I saw them together. When we saw him together in New Orleans. I was pregnant. I was like busting over.
Yeah.
And we got to talk to him and he signed our books.
He was so amazing. Yeah. So amazing. Love that man. But so brain health, we were talking about brain health a minute ago and Dr. Amen and stuff like that. And so I truly, as a 65-year-old, I am studying those things and I'm doing many of those things because I love living and I want to live a long time. But I'm hoping that I can live a long time and like do some of the things I really want to do. Like this is one of my favorite things. Doing my podcast, trying to encourage and bless people makes me very happy. My book that I started writing 105 years ago is still sitting in the corner. And you've written 2 in the time that I've whined about getting mine done.
Don't compare. Yeah, they're different projects.
Yeah, they are different projects. But so what besides the people that we've seen, so you and I have gone to see people and stuff like that. What are one of the people that we've seen that you just absolutely love and that it was life-changing for you?
I'm going to say Julia Cameron.
Yeah, I feel the same.
We were in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We were both really sick with altitude sickness. It was there for, I think it was called the Writing Room. It was a writing workshop. So we paid extra to have a more personal intensive with her, which was a smaller group. She hadn't taught in several years. I actually wrote about the experience and I haven't put it out there. I wrote about some of my more impactful experiences. I probably should share those with you.
I would love to.
The people that really were life-changing for me were Julia Cameron and I think Amy McNee.
Oh yeah, I remember her.
Was the one she loves the F word and she has this fabulous nose ring and a British accent and long nails and she always talks about crowning yourself. Yeah. And I think I wrote a poem called Crown Yourself after hearing her speak. But Amy McNee, Julia Cameron, I just felt like I was in flow with purpose when I sat in Julia's room, like in her class.
She was amazing.
I felt like I want to do that. I want to do what she's doing. And just so many things, as someone who's been through a lot of therapy, I'm very upfront with people that, I'm not going to just tell a stranger on the street, but I was hospitalized. I was in a mental health hospital several times when I was younger. I've been to different, psychiatric treatments. I've gone to counseling. I've done traditional. I've done, both secular and faith-based counseling. I've done trauma therapy as of most recently. I've done all the things, you guys. But I can say that I reached another level of openness for healing when I was exposed to the philosophies of creative recovery. And I think that is what's going to help take me to the finish line as I learn how to work through some of the just normal everyday ick and just, trauma stuff.
Julia Cameron, it's so funny. Every time we go, and that's, Britt and I love to go together to writing workshops, art festivals.
I thought of another one. Okay. I want to say her name was like Lauren Sapala. I'll have to look it up. But I got one of her books that was about like marketing for introverts or something. But you and I sat in the same workshop and she was talking about, guys, hopefully I keep it together. She was talking about artists and writers that feel a lot of shame about sharing their story and writing it down and expressing because there are childhood wounds that taught them that it's not safe to share, that it was safer to keep quiet. And what she said in that session, and she had some writing exercises for us, hit me so hard. So hard. And she kind of was like, hey, give yourself a break. Maybe what you think is writer's block isn't really writer's block. It's fear. It's feeling unsafe to share because it wasn't before. And so you have to go back and kind of like parent yourself and tell yourself that it's safe to express. And when we were sitting in that session, we were writing. You and I both were like, "Oh my gosh, this is so heavy."
We
were emotionally exhausted, but we knew we were doing important work. And when she was talking about that aspect of, you know, you're scared to share, you have that anxiety because it wasn't safe to share. You were taught that it wasn't safe. You looked over at me, and you either said, "That's you," or you nodded and meant that's you. You acknowledged me in a way that was really beautiful, and I think it changed our relationship. I think you know, because you're very happy and positive and everything is wonderful. And sometimes what your everything is wonderful can be hurtful because it doesn't feel like you're acknowledging the pain.
Right.
And so when you looked over at me and you were like, yeah, I see you. That's you. It meant a lot to me, and I think it changed our relationship.
That's so funny how people see things differently, you know, and you don't know what thing is going to mean so much to people. That's why being intentional about how we approach each other and teach it. But everybody's coming from their place of woundedness or their place of all the things that they were brought. And I love when Andy Stanley talks a lot about political division. In fact, he is the most brilliant speaker about that I've ever heard. You can walk away no matter what side you're on and feel good about who you are because the way he addresses it. But he says, hey, listen, he says, I hate to tell you all this, but the side of the political fence that someone owns has nothing to do with their intelligence. You know,
Amen.
It has everything to do with their perception and how they were raised and where they were raised and what kind of stories they lived through. And he said, if I had grown up in this part of the world or grown up with these circumstances, I too would be that way. So to assume that someone is an idiot or a redneck or anything because of their political affiliation, and it's about everything. We bring to life our perceptions and the stories that we've been living, and we do better. Most people do better when they know better. Most people do. And I think a lot of times we judge people. I think I said this in another podcast. We judge people like they should be at the finishing line, but a lot of times we're all just at our starting line. So you can't judge people at the finish line, you know? So I get a lot of help with Bob Goff by that because he is so patient and so kind. You love him too, right?
I do love him. I'd love for you and I to go on one of his retreats.
Britt.
That would be amazing.
You think we cried a lot at our... Oh, we cry over art too, though. Art makes us cry. But if you think we cried a lot over the writer's workshop, being in his presence and listening to Bob Goff talk with his beautiful heart, it just... Oh, my gosh. It's life-changing. Brett, we have already been talking a long time, and I have a suspicion we could probably talk a much longer time on these things. But there's a couple things I want to say, and I definitely see myself in this role, and I know you did too. And again, that's why I want us to have another podcast and talk about the role that what happens in a family of addiction. And it becomes one of the people that aren't addicted typically become very codependent and become the helpers and the heroes and stuff like that. And you can use it the rest of your life to be a wonderful thing, but you really do have to heal from it. And if you don't, stay in constant healing, you will revert back to it. You really will. I have to really work on it a lot. I read Courage to Change a lot. I read a lot of that stuff. But I love this right here. It says, for years, I placed value on being the helper in my family. I could help with a crisis or lend money or dispense advice. I was always happy to help others, but I would have never called my siblings to ask them for help, especially for support during a shame storm. At the time, I would have vehemently denied attaching judgment to my generous giving. But now I understand how I derive self-worth from never needing help and always offering it. I was so bad about asking for help my entire life. Still not good about it.
Mom, you don't have to tell me.
Still bad about it. I can do it. I can do it. And really, to be honest with you, Jen Berg is kind of helping me with that. My fitness coach, of all people. But to the point, this is silly, but like, I remember when I used to be in the hospital a lot when I was a young kid because I had asthma real bad as a child, but I grew out of it. I would be cold, freezing to death.
You didn't want to ask for
would not ask for a blanket because I didn't want to bother anybody. Yeah. I still to this day don't want to bother anybody. So I'm really working on that. I still have to work on that. I want my friends to tell me all their stuff, but I don't want to tell them my stuff. I'll work my stuff out on my own. I'm not saying that's good. We've talked about that before, and I'm working on that. This is the other thing I want to mention to you and see what you think about it with those two things. These are the two things. I love it. Look, I put Ask Britt. All right, I love this. If you're like me, practicing authenticity can feel like a daunting choice. There's risk involved in putting your true self out in the world. But I believe there's even more risk in hiding yourself and your gifts from the world. Our unexpressed ideas, opinions, and contributions don't just go away. And the older I get, the more I believe that. You know, the more I study, the more I grow, the more I seek inward. And I know that. So what do you think about that statement? And that is a good way for us to end this podcast together. It's a daunting choice to be authentic, but not is a greater risk. Not hiding your gifts is a greater risk.
Well, for sure. That's the, excuse me, it's the whole, like, do you want the regret of not having your light shine and not truly expressing yourself? Or do you want to have the regret of, okay, you expressed yourself and things didn't quite go the way you intended? Like, which one do you want? But I can say for me, when my daughter, you know, children are such a good mirror to you. Mm-hmm. And Piper would say things like, Mom, I haven't heard you sing in a while. Or I'd hear her tell her friends, oh, well, my mom is a writer and she's working on her second book or something like that. And she would be kind of proud. No, mind you, your kids they're little a-holes to you most of the time. Okay, but they're proud of you. Okay. Yeah. But anyways, so I realized that I'm setting an example for her and what kind of burden we give our children when we don't live our life fully.
Amen.
Right? A child does not deserve that burden to feel like they're the thing that kept you from doing your calling, right? And I'm setting an example for her. So if I don't stand up for myself, if I don't take good care of myself, if I don't have the courage to be authentic and be aligned with what I really think, believe, then I'm mirroring to her. I'm modeling to her that that's how to live. And I don't want to teach her that lesson. Mm-mm. I have, you know, my sweet, sweet, precious son. I grew up with him. You know, I still have a lot of regret there. Mm-hmm. I feel like, you know, I did the best I could, but I was not well as a young mother for my son. And he paid the price. Mm-hmm. And I did the best I could, right? But I've tried to learn from that situation and make sure that I'm setting a good example for Piper, my youngest daughter, as much as I possibly can.
Well, but Jack grew up to be an amazing young man. I'm so talented, so smart. And this is the thing, you know, as parents, we're just doing the best we can. Nobody gave us a dang class on being a dad burn parent.
No, for
and
sure.
you just, if you love your kids and you make it right when you can make it right, you're doing the best you can. My parents didn't do everything perfectly, but I really appreciate them. My dad was an alcoholic, but he was the most kind and loving man. My mother was the sweetest, the best. But so you just, I don't know, you just you learn from and grow from everything, and that makes me so thankful. Thank you, Britt, for being here today.
No problem.
I really appreciate it. We ask a question at the end, and it's just like, how do you find your happy in the hard? What is, this is my happy ass life, but life sometimes gives you some crap. So what do you do to find your happy in the hard times?
Happy in the hard times. For me, it's having a habit that allows me to center myself. So back to the Julia Cameron morning pages, I've always journaled my whole life. Being consistent about journaling in the morning and having quiet time, that is what keeps me sane. And even better if I can allow more time for myself to write and sing and express myself. But journaling is probably one of my most powerful mental health tools. Yep. And my secondary thing would be consistent exercise. You can't believe, back to Daniel Amen, you can't believe every stupid thing that gets in your head. And the older I get, the more I realize that your brain is just all that input coming from all the world, and you can't believe everything that comes in your head. And I think having self-care activities like exercise help regulate all the noise, and that's kind of my saving grace.
Yeah, I do those exact same things. Yeah. That's wild. Well, we didn't get to talk about the fact that I used to drive you crazy how I woke up really happy every morning. But we didn't chance that. We'll talk about that next time.
In recovery from happy ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy ass recovery. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here, and I really appreciate all of you sweet happy asses who continue to love me and continue to grow with me, and you want to make the world a happier and sweeter place to live. Thanks. Be sweet, y'all. Bye.